We often talk about heroes and stories on this channel, but they are just stories. What of real stories and real people going above and beyond? Some of you asked me to look into doing some non-fiction content. I've been looking for something along the lines of a day in the life of an average soldier in old conflicts. The anecdotal, fun, sad, and unbearable day-to-day stories that don't make it into movies, documentaries, and legends. The stuff that filled up 99.99% of any war. In that search, I came across the list of 473 recipients of the Medal of Honor during World War II. The people who did the unthinkable for their fellow soldiers, humans, friends. While reading the list, it struck me that these are real-life people who make you think humanity, feck yeah. And I'm going to try and tell their stories as well. If you like this type of content, you know what to do. Douglas Albert Munro, born October 11th, 1919, died September 27th, 1942, was a United States Coast Guardsman who was posthumously decorated with the Medal of Honor for an act of extraordinary heroism during World War II. He's the only person to have received the medal for actions performed during service with the Coast Guard. Douglas was born in Vancouver, Canada. His father was an American and his mother was English. In 1922, when Munro was 3 years old, he and his sister became naturalized U.S. citizens. He grew up in South Clair Enum, Washington, and was educated at South Clair Enum Grade School. After graduating in 1937, he attended Central Washington College of Education, now Central Washington University, for a year before leaving to enlist in the United States Coast Guard in 1939. As there was no basic training station in the Coast Guard in 1939, Munro, along with a dozen other enlistees, was put on a bus and sent to the Coast Guard Air Station at Port Angeles. Arriving there as fresh boots, they were put to work mowing lawns, cleaning the facilities, and servicing the aircraft. 7 days into this routine, an announcement was made asking for volunteers to fill vacancies aboard the USCGC Spencer at base Staten Island, New York. Munro was quick to volunteer and served aboard until early 1941, earning the Signalman third-class rating during the tour. Following this advancement, he rose quickly through the ranks to Signalman first class. In 1941, the Coast Guard was ordered to man 3 attack transports, the Hunter Leggett, the American Legion, and the Joseph T. Dickman, all of which had been transferred to the service by the U.S. Army. At his request, Munro was released from the Spencer to join the Hunter Leggett at the Brooklyn Army Base. In September of 1942, Munro, 22 at the time, was attached to the Hunter Leggett when it saw action in the Second Battle of Machineguns during the Guadalcanal campaign. In mid-1941, with the tension with Japan on the rise, the U.S. government began emergency mobilization and transferred the Coast Guard from the Department of Treasury to the Department of Navy. Munro volunteered for reassignment to the attack transport USS Hunter Leggett, which was being outfitted and manned by the Coast Guard as part of preparations for War Plan Orange. By mid-1942, Hunter Leggett had been assigned to Transport Division 17, tasked with supporting the Guadalcanal campaign. In preparation for the planned amphibious operations, Navy personnel began training as a small boat handlers under Coast Guard tutelage. Owing to the shortage of coxswains, Munro volunteered to join the training. Prior to the initial landings at the Battle of Talaga and Gavutu Tamimbogo, Munro was posted to Rear Admiral Richmond Kelly Turner's staff aboard the USS Macaulay, cross-trained as both a coxswain and a signalman. He was ordered to ferry troops to shore during a third attack wave, then beach his boat and attach himself to the U.S. Marine unit to help manage ship-to-shore communications. Following the Allied victory at the Talaga at Gavutu Tamimbogo, Munro was amongst the Coast Guard and Navy personnel who staffed the Naval Operations Base NOB Cactus at Lunga Point on the northern coast of the Guadalcanal. Lbry Cactus served as a communication hub between the land forces and offshore vessels. Established on August 9th by the Coast Guard Commander Dwight Dexter, Lbry Cactus is the only known instance of a naval operating base primarily led by Coast Guard personnel. Munro volunteered for assignment at Lungna Point. Dexter was his favorite officer. According to U.S. Marine Master Sergeant James Herbert, Munro and Evans lived at the base in an approximately 80 square feet hut, quote, they had made from packing boxes and scrap metal, end quote, which he also described as, quote, quite a swank establishment for Guadalcanal, end quote. On September 20th, 1942, Munro volunteered to lead a small boat search and rescue mission seeking to recover the crew of a Navy airplane that had been forced down off Savo Island. During the operation, Munro's craft came under intense fire from Japanese shore positions, though he was able to maneuver the boat back to base with only minor injuries to his crew. The downed aircraft was ultimately found and rescued by a flying boat. On September 27th, Lieutenant Colonel Chesty Puller ordered 3 companies of Marines to attack the flank of Japanese positions on the west side of the Machineguns River. Munro was placed in charge of 2 landing craft LCT and 8 Higgins boats tasked for transporting the Marines to their landing points. Preceded by a beach-clearing ship-to-shore bombardment from the destroyer USS Monson, the amphibious force landed and began moving inland towards their objective. Meanwhile, Munro withdrew his boats to Lunga Point as ordered, carrying with him injured sailors and Marines, among them Navy coxswain Samuel P. Roberts, who had been mortally wounded while using his landing craft to draw Japanese fire away from the Marines. The U.S. Marine Corps landing force came under attack in a Japanese counteroffensive and quickly found itself encircled on a hill. With the Marines in danger of being overrun, Monson opened fire on the Japanese position with her 5-inch 127mm caliber guns, managing to clear a narrow corridor to the beach. Using Monson's signal lamp, Puller ordered the Marines to fight their way to the shore. At Lunga Point, the landed craft were instructed to return and extract the besieged Marines. Commander Dexter asked Munro and Evans if they would take charge of the mission, to which Munro answered, "Hell yes." As the boats under Munro's charge approached the recovery points, they came under heavy fire from the Japanese at the ridge abandoned by the Marines. Munro used a .30 caliber machine gun aboard his landing craft to direct suppressing fire against the enemy positions as the other boats recovered the Marines. With Japanese troops moving against the beach, Munro piloted his boat closer to the shore to act as a shield. Though the initial extraction was successful, one of the LCTs became grounded on a sandbar. Munro directed the other LCT to help extricate the grounded vessel as he maneuvered his own boat to shield the Marines from the Japanese fire from the shore. Munro was shot in the base of his skull and lost consciousness. The LCT was ultimately freed and the boats resumed their withdrawal. When out of range of Japanese forces, Munro briefly regained consciousness before succumbing to his wounds. According to Evans, his dying words were, "Did they get off?" Evans said later that, quote, "Seeing my affirmative nod, he smiled with that smile I knew and liked so well. And then he was gone." End quote. Signalman Munro posthumously received the Medal of Honor for his heroism. His citation in part reads, "By his outstanding leadership, expert planning, and dauntless devotion to duty, he and his courageous comrades undoubtedly saved the lives of many whose otherwise would have perished. He gallantly gave up his life in defense of his country." He is buried in Laurel Hill Memorial Park in Clare Elm, Washington. The following is the full citation for the Medal of Honor given to him. World War II, U.S. Coast Guard, Douglas Albert Munro. Details: rank Signalman First Class. Conflict, World War II. Military Service Branch, U.S. Coast Guard. Medal of Honor Action to date, September 27, 1942. Medal of Honor Action Place, Point Cruz, Guadalcanal, Solomon Islands. Citation: for the extraordinary heroism and conspicuous gallantry in action above and beyond the call of duty as a petty officer in charge of a group of 24 Higgins boats engaged in the evacuation of a battalion of Marines trapped by enemy Japanese forces at Point Cruz Guadalcanal on the 27th of September 1942. After making preliminary plans for the evacuation of nearly 500 beleaguered Marines, Munro, under the constant strafing by enemy machine guns on the island and at great risk to his life, daringly led 5 of his small craft towards the shore. As he closed the beach, he signaled to the others to land, and then, in order to draw the enemy's fire and protect the heavily loaded boats, he valiantly placed his craft with its 2 small guns as a shield between the beachhead and the Japanese. When the perilous task of evacuation was nearly completed, Munro was instantly killed by enemy fire, but his crew, 2 of whom were wounded, carried on until the last boat had loaded and cleared the beach. By his outstanding leadership, expert planning, and dauntless devotion to duty, he and his courageous comrades undoubtedly saved the lives of many who otherwise would have perished. He gallantly gave his life for his country. Thank you for watching. The sources are in the description down below.